Hi, I want to make a video called Black Americans Check Your Privilege. I understand it's a provocative headline, and that's the point, of course, because everyone on YouTube is trying to get people to click. But what I want to say is that this is piggybacking off of the last video I made with talking about third world shame, is that the same way that Black Americans have a louder voice than Black Caribbeans and then Black Africans because we do not have as much money, resources, or maybe people in general who speak English, of course. We do have many people, but just like poorer people in the whole world, when you talk about privilege and stuff like that, have less of a voice and less of an impact on society. People from the Caribbean and African have less of a voice and less of an impact on society. Our voices are not being heard. Our stories are not being told. What we feel and think and what our history is not being told as much as Black history from Black Americans is being told, as much as Black American voices are being heard. And I'm talking about this in the realm of English speaking culture because such a thing as English speaking culture does exist. And I would like to say that the voices and stories and history of Black people outside of America and of Africans and so on are not being heard. What you hear is Black American. And I don't think there should be a big divide between the groups, but there is because of things that have been said or whatever. Um, but the reality is that in order for there not to be a divide, there has to be respect always, and you can't have one set of people back and the other saying you have to bow down and thank me for whatever, which without actually acknowledging the pain and suffering that the other side went through. So there is no acknowledgement that slavery and thing also damaged Africa, had an impact on Africa that was negative and hurt Africa. There's no acknowledgement of what happened to the people who were left behind and the story of Africa since Europeans landed there to take slaves. There is no acknowledgement of all of that. And until those type of things and that story is acknowledged, then yeah, there will not be peace because yeah, the expectations are just wrong. The setup, the story that is being told is just wrong. Anyway, I'm saying this in light of, when I go onto threads and I get told by Black Americans that I should be thankful to them, for all that they did in America, which allowed me to have my place or whatever. I don't live in America, but even as somebody, if I were Caribbean living in America, I find that to be all very insulting and untrue and a dismissal of what history is and what actually happened throughout history. I understand that Black Americans had it terrible, were slaves, and then went through segregation, and this was horrible, and today still face extreme racism. But to say that people outside of the Caribbean who struggling in third world countries without resources are not facing a bunch of bullshit as well, that is definitely is also happening because of the social and racist structure of the world and of English speaking cultures in general is untrue. To say that white supremacy or whatever you want to call it only affects those who are closest to them is wrong. It's like saying slavery only affects house slaves. Okay, Black Americans may be the house slaves because yeah, they're closest to a lot of white people. But to say that those who are further are not affected by the regime or whatever is just wrong. People in the Caribbean have definitely been affected by the same history of white supremacy, and have a lot of issues as a result of it mentally and so on. Um, and without acknowledging all of that and just judging people, I think, yeah, we can't really go anywhere. Um, so I hope that Black Americans could somehow like see this one day. I hope that one day the voices of Africans and maybe Caribbean people will be loud enough. It may not be because they don't have the resources to make their voices loud enough, but I hope that one day they have enough resources to be heard. and that people will understand that it's not as it seems, and that they have a story to tell, and that their story is heartbreaking as well. And um yeah, and that it is not like, it's not that just one set of people were discriminated against throughout history. No,